Our next topic is building social connections and combating loneliness. Even before there was COVID-19, loneliness and social isolation were already a major concern in our society. People with weak or few social connections are at increased risk for anxiety, depression, antisocial behavior, and suicidal behaviors. A 2017 Vancouver Foundation survey found that nearly a third of people aged 18 to 24 in the bustling city said they felt lonely. Our presentation today is brought to us by Regional Connections and two of their staff. So I'd like to introduce you to Alesha Hildebrand. She's the volunteer and integration coordinator for Regional Connections. Alesha is known for the work she does integrating newcomers into the Morden community. Through various programs and services, such as conversation groups, direct organizational referrals, and social networking. Alesha has contributed in the nonprofit sector for over 15 years, working in the disability sector as well as volunteering many hours through various local organizations. Alesha is well known in the City of Morden for the work she does in advocating for inclusion and the contributions she brings to creating a welcoming and diverse community. Say a little hello for us, Alesha.
Hi, everyone. Welcome here.
Great. And Diana has a master's degree in counseling and is a certified professional counselor. Her involvement with Regional Connections began with a pilot program between Connections and Eden Mental Health Center to provide counseling services to newcomers, immigrants, and staff. Diana is now continuing her role with Regional Connections as their in-house mental health clinician, offering short-term counseling services funded by the Immigrant, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada. And she is also a counselor at Recovery of Hope Counseling Center in Vancouver. So hello there, Diana.
Hi.
There she is. Okay, we're looking forward to your presentation on building social connections and combating loneliness. If you have questions for Alesha and Diana, we will take time at the end for some discussion. Please put your question in the comments or email mentalhealthweek@mymorden.ca. Take it away, Alesha and Diana.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. We hope you guys all are enjoying yourselves. It seems like it's a nicer day than yesterday with the rain yesterday, and today it just looks much better. So we hope you're getting out and exploring and taking advantage of those little bit of, little bit of strings that the government has allowed us to have in order to get a little bit of normalcy back in our lives. So I'm really excited that Stephanie was able to present our webinar this way, and to be able to have Mental Health Week be part of our community still, because it is a very important part of what we do in our community, and we want to share that with you guys. So I'm just going to share my screen here. So I'm going to come off video here, and I think Diana's going to do the same, just so we can keep communication clear and consistent, our connections, and remain as strong as can be. So I'm just going to do that here. So you're going to see me share. One second here. Sorry, one second. Okay. So, like Stephanie said, my name is Alesha Hildebrand. I'm from Regional Connections. I work as a volunteer and integration coordinator here. Regional Connections is an immigrant service provider for newcomers. We are a settlement service provider for newcomers. We provide settlement services for newcomers who have recently arrived, but those who have lived here for really any time period, and we want to, we provide supports for them with their settlement needs, so paperwork, understanding tax forms, really any kind of settlement needs. We also have employment services to help people, newcomers, as well as long Canadians or long-standing newcomers, work permits, help find employment in our communities. We also have language services, which provides newcomers with language supports and practicing and learning English so that they can gain employment and socialize in their communities. And then we have Community Connections, which is part of my role in ensuring that newcomers remain connected with their community. They learn about the different services and opportunities available for them once they arrive and move into their communities. So one of the things that we get to do at Regional Connections is be able to integrate in the community, integrate newcomers into the community, but we also get to connect and participate in programs and events such as this. So it's a privilege for me to be here and to be able to have Diana with us, and the services that she now offers at Regional Connections is really important. She provides now a short-term counseling service for newcomers at Regional Connections. And so newcomers now have access to mental health services within our organization. And so it's very important. Her role is very important. And we're really excited to be here and share this with you. So yeah, like we introduced ourselves, who we are. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, this is actually for those who attend through Zoom, but if you have Facebook Live, feel free to add a comment. I think Stephanie also gave an email to be able to send questions to at any time, and we'd be more than happy to answer them at the end of our presentation. Yeah, so our agenda is we're going to cover a few topics. We're going to cover recognizing loneliness, change perspective on loneliness, challenging negative thoughts, coping strategies to support mental health, acceptance and adaptation, stay connected, proactive mental health management, and then we'll end with a question and answer period that you guys can engage in. All right.
Okay, thank you, Alesha. We're just going to start off by saying we know these are uncertain times of change that we're going through, and people have a tendency of reacting in different ways, and at times we react in a way that takes us off guard. Now we find it odd that maybe we begin to feel a certain way, or maybe we haven't felt that way before in the past, or it's just an uncomfortable feeling that we're just not used to feeling, and we might start to wonder what is wrong with us. Now, one of the feelings that seems to come up in these uncertain times with all the uncertainty that's going on is loneliness, and that's why we decided to speak on loneliness today. So we first decided to start off with just trying to recognize what loneliness is. So understanding the definition of loneliness: unpleasant emotional response to isolation, being without company, sadness from being alone. This is just the general definition of what loneliness is, but that's just not it. Along with loneliness comes a lot of stigma. Alone, loser, outcast, no friends. And I think that's what we have to be careful of with loneliness, is the stigma that comes with it. And to see how that stigma plays into how you view loneliness, how you notice feelings of shame or guilt for feeling lonely. And it's important to recognize those feelings. It's important to notice your thoughts and reactions and how different they are than normal. You might not know how it is to feel this way, or this isn't the way I normally feel, this isn't the way I normally act. And that is normal, because these are extenuating circumstances, and we've never lived through anything like this before. And I'm sure you've heard it time and time again from anyone that you talk to about how, I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime. I can't believe we're going through this. I can't believe this is happening in Canada. You know, and we're all going through the same thing at the same time. It's a global phenomenon. We're all going through the same thing. So to react in a way that we normally wouldn't, that is the normal, because this is not our normal. So it is different for us. And you might find different ways to react to feelings of loneliness, like an increase in negative thoughts, or a decrease in patience, or a change in eating habits. You can also have anger outbursts, or further withdrawal to be alone, sadness, anxiety, depression. Again, all normal reactions to a sudden change that bring on a sense of loneliness. So it's just, you never know how you're going to react until you're in a situation. And this is the situation we're in. So one of the things that might be helpful is to start to change our perspective on loneliness. If we can change the slide, there you go. Change perspective on loneliness, from loneliness to solitude. It could be a good thing that this time alone that we have. A lot of us don't have this time alone with our families, with ourselves. It's rush, 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 soccer practice, ballet rehearsal, church obligations. Like there's so much stuff on our plates that we barely have time to breathe. So to all of a sudden break and have all this time feels awkward, or what am I supposed to do, or what can we do? And this is a really good time to turn that loneliness more into a solitude definition. So solitude being the best company for yourself, to take time to cultivate a relationship with yourself, something you choose or desire for yourself. And it feels like you're taking control in a way, like I choose to use my time for solitude versus I feel lonely. And how do you do this? And a lot of it has been described before, but taking the opportunity to invest time in yourself, journaling, reading, drinking tea in peace, going for a walk, meditation, things that Terry talked about in her play webinar, finding that rest, reflecting on a daily blessing, just finding that time solid and just trying to take control of it as if this is what I want to do, not that it's forced on me by the laws or the government or the quarantine. No, it's almost taking a little bit of control back by choosing what you want to do to partake in that solitude time. And that makes self-care a priority, because self-care is a priority to combat loneliness. It's very important. It's not about being a selfish act, but taking care of oneself in order to be ready to care for others. And when they need you. And I'm sure we've all heard the analogy of flying, and when the oxygen mask comes down, the need to put your mask on first before you put on whoever's next to you. And that's true. If we don't take care of ourselves, we won't have that energy or that resourcefulness in us to be able to provide care for those around us when they need it, because we're important too. And we need to be, at that self-care feeling where we feel, okay, I feel good enough to give to others as well. One of the things that does come up during these times of uncertainty is negative thoughts. And that's something we kind of wanted to touch upon very lightly today, but learn how to listen to those negative thoughts. Because I think a lot of times we confuse those thoughts with fact. And sometimes the thoughts may feel really strong and they feel true, like a fact, this is true. But sometimes it's just a strong worry. So it's trying to take the time to figure out, is this fact or is this just a really strong worry? And then trying to decipher that for ourselves, to be able to calm ourselves down, to not feel that anxiety build up, and to be able to reframe that thought so we see it more as, okay, that was just a worry, it's not fact. So not jumping to conclusions. It's always best to stay present. And I know this is really hard to do, especially with family members so far away, and we see loved ones that we can't get to because the borders are closed or the airlines are closed, and especially dealing with the immigrant and newcomer population that we deal with, they really feel stuck because now they really can't go. Even if they wanted to go, they can't go, and their family is far away. So it's trying to stay present. And humans, we have a tendency of worrying so much about our past and so much about our future that we're not staying present. And I think that's a big disservice to ourselves, because even with this presentation, as Terry alluded to at the end of hers, the worry about doing a good job or how's it going to be, we're already worrying about the future. It hasn't happened yet. We're here now, but we worried so much about it happening before it happened that it's almost like we're kind of worrying about it twice. And sometimes it's an unnecessary worry. So another thing to challenge those negative thoughts is releasing judgment on yourself for feeling this way, and to remember that others are feeling this way too. We have a tendency of wondering, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just get over it? To reassure yourself that it's okay and redirect those negative thoughts, and to focus on more positive outcomes, such as your strengths, what you're good at, the qualities you have, being grateful for something, anything, even, oh my goodness, I got the last bag of toilet paper at Walmart. Yay! Just being grateful for what you have. Thankfulness for blessings in life. This is only for a season. And I think that's a big one to hold on to, because change will happen again. Just like there was change that happened into this moment, there will be change that will come out. And we're already kind of experiencing that now. As of May 4th, a lot of businesses have opened, giving us a little bit of hope that maybe summer won't be so bad. So change will happen, and holding on to that. And also realizing your resilience. we've all overcome obstacles in our life, and we will overcome this too. And the thought of thinking about what you have had to overcome and seeing how strong you truly are, and that's just a good thing to hold on to, because I think then you sort of feel that empowerment in yourself, that resilience that you have, that, you know, I delivered a 10-pound baby, I can get through this. Or I was able to hike the Grand Canyon with no water and a broken foot, I can do this too, or whatever your scenario might be. But just trying to keep that resilience going, that you can do this in time. And talking about your feelings to someone you trust or seek professional support, that's always a good thing too. If you can't carry this yourself and you need someone's support, that's okay. And it's recognizing that. And preferably with someone who can come alongside you, who can sustain you too, who has put that oxygen mask on themselves, and now they're able to help you as well. So I think always getting someone you trust or seeking professional help is a good thing if you can, you know, find it.
That's awesome. You know, one of the things we recognize, I know for myself, I'm an extrovert. I like to be out socializing. I like to be out seeing people and doing things. And my husband's an introvert, and he prefers to be at home. And so I had to learn to adjust to myself and you know, taking my extrovert personality and kind of adapting it to now being more of an introvert. But for him, you know, being at home and having his own time is important, but now we've kind of invaded that, you know. And so just trying to find that balance of being adaptable to change and how you are as a person, but how the people you are with and how maybe they're coping with that as well. And so learning to recognize and to find that balance is really important. So there's a lot of ways you can cope with some of those emotions, whether it be positive or negative. We can do things like physical activity. So physical activity can look like a lot of things. Like Terry said, it can be play. Play can mean a lot of things. It doesn't have to be competitive, and it doesn't have to be in a negative way. But you can, you know, learn new things with your children. You can go for a walk with your children and listen to an audiobook, you know, and be able to talk to them about those things. Join an online fitness group that provides positivity and support. Do fun dance parties with your kids and record that, because these are great memories to look back on. And just, yeah, find opportunity to invest in yourself. They always say that this is a time to reconnect with yourself. We always say life is too busy and we don't have time to self-care. And we have that opportunity now to slow down and to invest a little bit into ourselves. And so find that time to do that. Meditation. So there's things like yoga. There's lots of free videos on YouTube. There's even people doing yoga groups, you know, they're doing Zoom groups, and they're still an instructor who's kind of walking you through things. There's also an app called Headspace that allows you to get guided meditation from somebody who helps you de-stress and helps you refocus. There's lots of options available for meditation. There is also, like Diana said, talking to others, talking to people you trust. It's really important to recognize that these feelings are there. They're real, and they're not going away just because you tell yourself that everything's fine. You need to still talk it through, right? So being able to connect with people that you trust so that you can unload a little bit and feel like it's a little bit off your shoulders, but that you're having relatable conversation with somebody who maybe feels the same way as you. And so you can do that by just having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, whether it be a phone call or even a FaceTime message with somebody. It can be even with a group of people where you get to do a game night. You know, I've seen friends of mine set up their phones and they're playing Settlers of Catan, you know, and they're all together and they're playing through video, and it's a really unique way, but it kind of creates humor and creates fun and creates an ability to play during that time. And so there's lots of options that you can do to connect with people. There is, you can, start a new hobby or learn a new skill, start a project. They always say this is a time to I've heard the term through this process, road construction workers, this is a time to get those roads fixed. This is a time to get projects done. And, create a goal list for yourself that kind of helps you get through realistic and measurable goals. Like, today I'm going to just work on my closet, and tomorrow I'm going to work on the kids' rooms, and be able to meet those goals and succeed makes you feel like you're accomplishing something. So hit those projects that you didn't have the time for. Learn a hobby. There's lots of stuff on Instagram, on Pinterest, on YouTube to be able to teach you step by step on how to learn a new hobby and learn new skills. There's also online courses, webinars. There's so many things happening in the web, in the internet world, that is just accessible by the click of a button. And so it's not just about news, and it's not just about memes or whatever those things are called. It's not just about those things. There's a lot of opportunity to grow, and for you as a person, connecting with people and being able to learn. Support network. So we have, if you have a support network that you met during pre-COVID-19 time, where it was like a Bible study or a book club or any kind of group activity, don't write because you can't meet in person, don't write those groups off as just not existing. Find creative ways to rebuild some of those connections. It might be that, if it's a book club, then it's done, through an audio video format, much like a conversation group. If you, find ways to just reconnect with people in a group setting, even though you can't meet in person. It's very important to still maintain those relationships. You can create unique games and activities that you can do together just to keep conversation going. Most networking can still be done just in a different way. So like right now, you're networking with us through a webinar. You see of conversation groups happening through Zoom. You hear about meetings, all these options that were now coming to light that, maybe weren't always readily available before COVID-19, or you didn't realize that they were available, are now coming to light. So take advantage of those opportunities. It's important. Focus on needs and feelings of others. So if you're starting to feel lonely, connect with someone you trust. Express and recognize feelings and have relatable conversation, like we mentioned, but focus on encouraging each other. Focus on the positive outcomes of what you're currently feeling rather than focusing on the negatives. So knowing that we have to wash our hands 50 times a day might seem really discouraging, but it's helping keep our families safe and clean and healthy. And, not being able to see your grandparents can be really discouraging, or not being able to see your family from another country who was planning to visit can be really discouraging. But the outcome is that they're healthy and that everything's okay. And so try to focus on the positive outcomes of what we're going through right now, because it's important to focus on those things so that we're not drowned by negative opinions and feelings about what's going on. So there's healthy ways, and then there's also unhealthy ways. Substance abuse, so relying on alcohol or drugs or narcotics to fill a need, it's not healthy. Other addictions like gambling and shopping, it's very important to recognize that your energy can be focused in a negative way, and it can do harm to you by doing so. Changing eating habits, so binge eating. Like I always say, when I'm at home, I snack 10 times more than I should be, and so it can be a bad habit. Not eating is also not a good thing. So ensure that you're keeping with routines, keeping with your healthy choices that you made before COVID-19, that you're able to kind of still continue. Overuse of screens. So we talked about the negative things on social media, right? It's in filtering that stuff out. So, screens can be used, but also, pick up a physical book, feel free to read a book from the library. Adjust your screen time so that you're not getting too overwhelmed with everything that's happening in your social media feeds and so forth. And not getting enough sleep is never good. So I know for myself, I try to keep with my routines at night as much as I was before COVID-19, just to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep and I'm balancing myself properly. It's very easy to just stay up late, binge watch TV shows, and then have to get up at 7 o'clock with your kids. So it can cause disconnect with your routines, and sometimes that can affect you in your mental health and how you're feeling. So yeah, it's just really important to recognize, is what you're doing, is it going to be a long-term solution? Is it something that's going to benefit you in the long run, or is it something that is giving you a temporary fix, and it's something you still have to deal with at some point? So yeah.
All very good. Yep. So strategies to support mental health. We just wanted to talk a little bit about that, because mental health is just so, of course, physical health is important, but mental health is important, of course, right? So we want to be able to feel our emotions, not to hide for them or mask them or numb them, like Alesha was talking about with the unhealthy coping mechanisms. We don't want to numb. We want to, even though they're uncomfortable, to recognize them and to work through them, to challenge those negative thoughts, reframe them, look to a positive one. And I know that this is hard to do, that sometimes we get caught up in that negative thoughts, and this is bad, and this is never going to be good, and whatever it is, over and over again. And sometimes it just baby step, just a tiny little change, and well, it's not good, it's not bad, even neutral thought, that's better than the negative. And just trying to be kind to yourself, working through this, because it is a habit, and just to recognize, so okay, I'm going to try today to just see it as neutral or positive, even if you can. To limit intake of stressful information, that's, I think, is very important. We all need to recognize how much we can take, and some of us can be watching CNN 24 hours a day and it doesn't affect them. For others, 10 minutes of the news, that's it, I'm done. So we have to be careful of our limitations. We have to recognize them and what you can or can't handle, and honor that for yourself. You don't have to be the person that's up to date 24 hours a day on the news. If you can't handle that, it's affecting your sleep, it's affecting how you're eating, it's affecting your mood, or how you're interacting with your children or your husband or your spouse. So we have to recognize that information can just be overload sometimes, and we just need to put boundaries for ourselves. Focus on what you can control, like we were talking about: routine, hygiene, bedtime, meals. Try to take some type of control and normalcy back in one's life amidst everything that is out of control in a way. I think that's a very important thing. Children really thrive on routine. They need to know what's next to then be able to prepare themselves. And we're kind of in the same way too. We need to recognize what we need to do in order to get ourselves to that point where we can start relaxing and be done with the day, because we have a tendency of, and you've heard the jokes, what day is it today? You lose all concept of time. So it's important to have some set of routine to be able to have a beginning of the day and keep going. To stay connected to others, as Alesha talked about, and great ideas on creativity there. Lots of examples that she gave. Again, use of community resources. There's lots of things available in Winkler, Morden, and the area. Look at what we're doing today. So we have resources. It's just seeking them and partaking in them. Being proactive with your mental, like we're doing today as well. And to sense when you're starting down, to know I'm not feeling quite right. Just to try in with yourself to know what happened. Why am I feeling this way today? Did something trigger you? Did you hear something on the news? Did someone say something that made you worry? But to just really be in tune with oneself and recognize I'm just not feeling settled. My stomach is hurting, or I have a weird headache, or whatever it is. There's different ways to recognize in our body when we're just not quite feeling right and something's happening, and to recognize that before it starts to go really, really downward. To be mindful of your coping strategies, like we talked about, healthy versus unhealthy. Limit intake of stressful information. We just talked a little bit about that earlier on, but just trying not to bombard yourself, to set boundaries on the use of what you bring in. And it's still important to stay informed. I'm not saying to not stay informed, but just again, within your limits and what you can handle. And practice self-care, always. I will always go back to self-care. A good book, a bath, healthy food, favorite TV show, scented candle, relaxing herbal tea, spa day at home. Self-care involves all the senses. No smelling, seeing, taste. You can do self-care in so many different ways. Like Terry had said, go for a drive, crank the music, and just, you know, sing it out. And who cares who's around, because no one's around, you know. So just getting that self-care in you where you feel, oh, that was good, I loved it. So I think that's really important. Moving on to acceptance and adaptation. It's recognizing and accepting that there are things that we cannot change and are out of our control. And I think that's the biggest thing that happened with the COVID pandemic, is it feels like things just changed so quickly. Our daily routines changed so fast, and it was out of our control. So recognizing that, yes, that is what we're living in currently, but we do have something that we can control for ourselves and our household, like we go back to the routines and that sort of thing, right? That you will naturally feel a level of stress around this time. Again, a change in daily routine, daily life, all good reasons why we feel that stress level rise. We don't know what the future will hold. So all good reasons why we felt so much stress. So accepting that this is what comes with this. And that we will be uncomfortable due to the uncertainty. Uncertainty equals uneasiness. So due to the unknown, we do feel that uncomfortableness. And there are moments that we've had to grieve, significant memories lost. I think we all know someone who would have been graduating this year. They can't have their grad. They can't go on their high school trip. There's a wedding that should have happened, and now there's just a few people at the ceremony, not the dream wedding that the bride wanted with all her 250 guests. I'm sure we've all heard of funerals where they're virtual now. You can't be there to hug the widow, or so it is a grieving process of what normal life was like, and we have to it's okay to grieve those significant moments that I wish it would have been different. That's just the way life is, especially in these times, but it's just a natural. And I think that's an important point if you would have those events. Accept that it's okay to cry when feeling overwhelmed, and it does relieve stress. You may feel like you shouldn't, but if you feel it, it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay. It's okay to do whatever cry you need to cry, just to release that in you. And I think we've all felt after a good cry, whew, that felt good. There's a reason for that. So it's allowing yourself to do that, especially during this time when everything is so uncertain. But it's learning to adapt as well. Social distancing does not mean you can't interact with others. It's coming up with new ways despite the circumstances, like Alesha did a great job of describing, and practicing that self-compassion. It's different than self-care, so don't feel bad for feeling or thinking the way you are. Like, I shouldn't be feeling this way, that type of thought. To not judge your reaction, to be kind to yourself as you would to others. You have sympathy for yourself and how you're reacting. Recognize the effect given the circumstances that we're in. It's not only affecting you, but it's also affecting the world. So it's understandable that we were shaken or blindsided, or we're not reacting like ourselves during this time. So it's having that little bit of compassion on ourselves to say, it's okay that I'm reacting this way, but how can I adapt now to my situation to help me be the best me right now?
I just realized I was muted for a bit. It's one of those things to recognize that this is new for everyone. Every single person that is experiencing this, whether it be home care, like healthcare workers, or us as, for us as me as an integration coordinator, it's really tough for me to really think outside the box and figure ways to connect newcomers to the community, and when they can't physically get to the resources that are now not naturally open and available for them. This is new for everyone. And so it's important to recognize that your feelings of uneasiness is consistent across the board. Teachers are learning to teach in a new way. Students are learning to learn in a new way. Everybody's having to expand to a new normal. And there's benefits and there's barriers to both, right? So we've experienced both, but it's definitely something we can look back on and say, we survived COVID-19 and everything's okay. It might not feel that way today, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're starting to see it already. So it's a good thing to recognize. So we talked about staying connected. One of the things that we talk a lot about here is connections are so important. So even just checking in with somebody and saying, how's your day? It can go a really long way, where you may not have had the time before to do that. Now you feel like you have a little bit more of that connection with that time and with people. So we focus your time that you spend with people and that you may not naturally have time to connect with. So we know families are from another country. A lot of newcomers come to Canada without their family. Some people come with family wanting to visit. It's important to still remain and keep connected with those people. Join conversation groups. So Regional Connections has conversation groups that happen every week. And so you can go on Regional Connections Facebook page and get involved and get registered for those conversation groups. And we are looking at ways of bringing that now out in public so that we can start normalizing a lot of our connections again in person. So we're slowly starting to create those conversation groups outside of the computer, but it's important to still remain connected. Volunteering in your community. So there are many ways to volunteer you might not realize. Delivering groceries, calling on people who you may experience loneliness. So, visiting your grandma over iPad or over video call, it can be creative and a unique way to connect with people in nursing homes. There is also, feel free to pick up the phone and call an organization and ask them if there's an opportunity that you can help in the services that they're providing today. And so sometimes there's unique ways that they need that assistance and may not have the resources to do that with people that they have on board. So it's important to recognize that there may be volunteer opportunities existing in the community, and find creative ways to connect with families. So I won't go into all the list again, but again, there's so many opportunities. Netflix has a watch party that you can invite your friends on and chat about the movie while you're watching. There's just such a limitless opportunity out there. And I think everybody who's affected by this has found a way to provide opportunity for people so that there's no limits for that. Yeah. I know, Stephanie, we're going past our time. We're going to try to speed up a little bit here.
Well, I think we have until 15, so we're just going to plow through. But again, proactive mental health management, the first few ones, it's something we've talked about: getting enough sleep, eating well, maintaining proper hygiene, establishing that routine. That's all things we've already discussed earlier. The one thing I did just want to touch a little bit more on is, if you're working from home, to separate your workspace to your personal space if possible. And that doesn't, I know it depends on everyone's living situation, but I know it's hard to do, but I think it is kind of important, because now we do everything from home. We're home is school, home is church, home is work, home is everything. And we have to remember that we still need to live at home and not have that impending, oh my goodness, I have this deadline, that. No, to try to be able to set some type of a boundary on the time spent from home, because now everything is online. You can check email from work at any time of the day, but it's still trying to set that boundary as if it was office hours, and then turning off the notifications after your office hours are done, or whatever time you allot to work, and trying to, like I said, just live at home, just remembering that we do live at home, and we need to live, be happy, and play, and just be with one another. And that's an important thing to remember, that home is still home, and we want it to be a good, safe, happy home. And the rest, stay up to date on information through reputable sources, of course, getting your information from, not just getting it from a good source that is correct information. And that will also help with fear, not sharing fear, and it wasn't the right information to share, and that sort of thing. So refraining from sharing unsolicited posts, and also sharing unsolicited posts. We don't want to be the ones that provoke more fear already in a fearful situation. So we need to be careful with what we post and what our words are to others, and how uplifting or empowering or encouraging they are, versus, oh my gosh, and giving them more things to worry about. And use available resources in your community, like we talked about as well.
Okay, so exactly, like getting that information from sources that are local is important, really, because a lot of information that's shared on social media is irrelevant to our community and maybe happening in another country or another, United States, and there's a lot of different situations happening in different parts of the world. So it's important that we're we're recognizing that the information is for our community and for our province. And so you can do that by going on the government website. So I think I have it in my next slide as gov.mb.ca. It's posted all through social media as well, but that's a very important place to check out your information. The great thing is the government of Manitoba has expanded their services and resources to recognize that mental health is important at a time like this. And so they have a program called Mental Health Virtual Therapy Program. And just today I read an article that said over 1,700 Manitobans have had access to that program and have connected themselves with that program. And so it's a free program offered by the government of Manitoba. And we know mental health resources can sometimes be a challenge to access, and especially you feel like it's a challenge to access, especially at a time like this, because you think that everybody's closing their doors right now and I can't access the needs that I have, the mental health needs that I have, and you can. And so this helps. This is one area that you can access, and it's free. It's available to anybody. I think, if I'm right, it's over the age of 18. I might have to look into that a little bit. But Diana, do you know the age? I think it is over 18, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 16 or older.
Actually.
Sorry. Yeah, 16 or older. And so you should be able to access mental health services, and there's lots of options, and you're able to connect with a professional therapist. And if I'm correct, I think it's a local therapist within Manitoba. So that's very important. And you're able to talk about your feelings and just be able to unload, especially if you are new to this area and new to our community and don't have those social networks existing. It's important to have an option and available resource for you to use. So this is available. And also you can, this is a link directly. So manitoba.ca/COVID-19/BeWell/virtual therapy HGML. And I think, Stephanie, we can probably link it in our comments as well, if that would help. That way people can click the link and get directed to that website as well. Yeah, so some of the information that we shared today really has come from a lot of areas. It's come from our own experiences and our own knowledge and of the resources in our community. It's come from webinars that we've participated in, and education that we've had through our training and education and knowledge. So there's just a bunch of links here. Diana, do you have any comments about anything?
I see a little typo in one of ours, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry about that.
In the sitecentral.com, but but other than that, no, it's all good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, and so feel free to navigate any of these websites. If you have questions, you can always email info@regionalconnections.ca, and we can help navigate these resources to you if you want to know more.